In 2003, four choir girls vanished after a church competition in Alabama. Their van was never found. No bodies, no suspects, just silence. For 18 years, families grieved without answers. Then, a cameraman's drone revealed a burned bus deep in the woods with 3 choir robes laid across the seats. But one girl was missing, and when a series of anonymous messages appeared online, signed only as Meeks, everything the town believed began to unravel. Welcome to Minority Struggles. If this story hits home, subscribe, and let me know where you're listening from and what time is right now. Now, let's begin. It was supposed to be a celebration. April 12, 2003, the night of the Tri-County Youth Gospel Competition in Selma, Alabama. The choir girls from New Salem Baptist Church had been preparing for weeks. They practiced in the sanctuary every Wednesday and Saturday afternoon, harmonizing under dim lights and worn pews. They were young, focused, and in sync, 4 voices that rose like something holy. Imani Brooks, 15, was the group's quiet leader. She always stood front and center, one hand raised, one foot slightly back like she was balancing her spirit on the edge of a note. Alicia Rowe, 14, wore thick glasses and carried a small notebook full of original lyrics and Bible quotes. Dee Dee Bryant, 16, was bold and bubbly, the kind of girl who made jokes in rehearsal but sang like she meant every word. And Tamika Harris, 15, kept to the back, her voice feather soft but always on pitch. She had a notebook too, but hers was filled with poems she never let anyone read. That Saturday evening, the girls won second place. They didn't mind. They'd beaten 10 other choirs. A church van from Mobile won first, and the girls clapped for them. They laughed and took pictures under the brick archway outside the venue, some holding fast food fries, others tugging at their navy and white choir robes. The trophy wasn't huge, but it meant something. It meant their voices had been heard. Around 10:05 p.m., the 4 of them climbed into the church van, a white, 15-passenger Ford with New Salem Baptist written in faded blue letters along the side. The youth pastor, Brother Curtis, got in behind the wheel. No one remembers what they said before driving off. No one thought they wouldn't make it home. They were due back in Montgomery by 11:30 p.m. By midnight, Gloria Brooks began to worry. She was Imani's grandmother and guardian, raising her ever since Imani's mother died of heart failure when she was 7. Imani always called after events. She would let Gloria know when they were leaving, then again once they got close. That night, there was no call. Gloria tried not to panic. Maybe her phone died. Maybe they stopped for food. Maybe they were just singing too loud to hear it ring. By 12:30, she was calling other parents. Alicia's mom hadn't heard anything. Dee Dee's sister said she was starting to get nervous. Tamika's aunt had already left 2 voicemails. By 12:42 a.m., Gloria called 911. They were supposed to be home by now, she told the dispatcher. It's not like them to be late. Maybe they made a stop, the woman said gently. How long has it been since you spoke to your granddaughter? Before the competition, Gloria said. That was around 6. By 2 a.m., it wasn't just nerves anymore. All 4 families were calling around. The church didn't pick up. One parent drove to the building and found the lights off. By sunrise, Montgomery PD issued a preliminary report and contacted the Selma venue. Workers said the van left right after the event, around 10 p.m., maybe a few minutes later. No one remembered anything strange. The route home was straightforward. Route 82, cutting through pine woods, back roads, and gas stations, then east onto I-65. A trip they'd made dozens of times. There were no signs of an accident. No tire marks. No shattered glass or broken branches. No witnesses. By Sunday, the case hit the news. Local stations used words like concerning and unexpected. A few anchors reported that 4 teenagers and a youth pastor vanished after a church event, but most didn't show their pictures. The story didn't lead the broadcast. It sat behind weather alerts and sports scores. At New Salem Baptist Church, the mood was somber. The pulpit was draped in purple. Pastor Samuel Green offered a brief statement. Our hearts are broken. We are praying for their safe return. We ask the community to be patient and let the authorities do their work. Outside the church, Gloria stood alone, holding a sign with Imani's school photo printed on it. Her granddaughter wore a navy blue headband and a crooked smile. The caption read, "Have you seen her?" "I'm not going home," Gloria told a reporter. "Not until someone tells me where my baby is." Over the next 48 hours, volunteer search crews walked the wooded trails off Route 82. State troopers flew over fields and helicopters. Divers checked local ponds. A few false sightings were reported: a girl at a gas station, a van matching the description parked at a truck stop, but they led nowhere. By Wednesday, the leads dried up. By the weekend, the media had moved on. The church choir resumed rehearsals. New robes were ordered. A different set of girls stood in the front row on Sunday morning. The girls' families didn't move on. Gloria kept Imani's bedroom untouched. Purple bedding, photo-covered bulletin board, choir shoes by the door. Alicia's mother organized prayer circles every third Saturday. Dee Dee's sister started a blog. Tamika's aunt took down every clock in her house. "Time's a lie," she said. "There's still 15. Officially, the case was open but inactive. Unsolved. Unresolved. Privately, most assumed the van crashed off-road, deep into the trees. Or they'd been taken. Or they'd run away. The speculation hurt more than the silence. In her journal, Alicia had once written, "We sing because someone out there is listening." For 18 years, no one knew who was still listening. And the van? The dresses? The girls? Gone. Until now. The drone hummed softly overhead, drifting above the dense tree line of western Lowndes County. It was just past noon on a humid June afternoon in 2021, and Raymond Mendez was sweating through his shirt as he adjusted the remote control in his hands. He wasn't here for a mystery, just storm damage footage. A week earlier, a tornado had ripped through an abandoned church site near the edge of a former logging property. Raymond had been hired by a small documentary team filming the decay of old Southern churches. The project wasn't glamorous, but it paid. He'd already captured 4 hours of crumbled steeples and moldy hymnals. But something about this place felt different. On the edge of the forest clearing, what used to be a back building had collapsed into itself, blackened at the edges like it had been scorched long before the tornado ever came. Raymond sent the drone in lower. That's when he saw it. At first, it looked like a twisted piece of rusted metal, maybe an old trailer or livestock container. But as the drone hovered and dipped, he caught the curve of a windshield beneath vines, and the ghostly outline of blue lettering across the side panel. He leaned forward, heart tapping faster now. The drone zoomed in. New Salem Baptist. Raymond froze. It couldn't be. The lettering was faded, but clear enough. The shape, a boxy, 15-passenger frame. The back doors were melted shut. The roof had partially caved in. It was wrapped in overgrowth, buried beneath tree limbs and leaves, like the earth had been trying to forget it. He landed the drone, packed his gear, then hiked it on foot. It took him nearly 40 minutes to reach the site. He tripped twice, cut his hand on a rusted fence. But when he finally saw it, the full, real thing, he stopped cold. The van was almost skeletal. Its paint scorched off, windows gone, tires rotted into the soil. The air around it smelled like ash and wet moss. No sign of animals. No graffiti. Just stillness. He circled to the back, pulled out his phone light, and carefully peeked through the shattered rear window. What he saw made him step back and nearly drop the phone. Inside the van, carefully placed across the third-row seat, were 4 choir dresses, navy with white sashes, slightly singed at the edges but unmistakably preserved. One was laid over a Bible. Another had a name tag half melted into the fabric. A. Rowe. Raymond stumbled back. His mouth went dry. He knew that name. Everyone in Alabama knew that name. The choir girls. The ones who vanished in 2003. He fumbled for his phone, snapped photos, then called the county sheriff's office. His voice cracked as he explained what he'd found. By dusk, the site was surrounded in yellow tape. Crime scene investigators arrived first, then state troopers, a forensics van. A news truck showed up within hours, headlights blinding the darkness. Raymond stood behind the caution tape, hands shaking. "It's them, isn't it?" he asked one deputy quietly. The man didn't answer. just looked at the van and nodded once. News broke the next morning. Missing 2003 church van recovered in woods after 18 years. Choir girls mystery reopened after shocking discovery. The story spread like wildfire. Old footage aired. Photos of the girls. Imani smiling in her robe. Alicia in her glasses. Dee mid-song. Tamika half hidden behind a hymnal. Flashed across every screen in Alabama and beyond. Gloria Brooks nearly dropped her coffee when she saw the headline. She hadn't heard those names spoken publicly in over a decade. She called the station. They confirmed it. The van was real. The dresses were real. Her granddaughter's cross necklace had been found melted to the floor mat. She drove to the site the same day, parked a quarter mile from the scene, and walked the rest of the way in her Sunday shoes. A young officer stopped her at the tape. "I'm the one who never stopped," she said simply. He let her through. She stood at the edge of the clearing, hands trembling, staring at the blackened shell of the van. A dozen memories hit her at once. The sound of Imani humming in the bathroom, the smell of her cocoa butter lotion, the way she tapped her foot in rhythm while doing homework. Her knees buckled. A reporter caught her before she fell. "I told them," she whispered. "I told them this wasn't an accident." By week's end, the forensics team confirmed what many feared. 3 sets of partial remains were identified using DNA, enough to link them to Imani Brooks, Alicia Rowe, and Danielle Dee Bryant. But there was no trace of Tamika Harris. No bones, no blood, no clothing fragments. The authorities didn't make any claims. But privately, speculation exploded. Had she survived? Been taken? Escaped? A reporter asked Gloria if she had hope. She answered with a hollow voice. "No," she said. "I have questions." And now, after 18 years, the world was finally asking them too. The investigation shifted overnight. Once Tamika Harris's name entered the headlines, everything changed. The story was no longer just about the recovery of a long-lost vehicle or the tragic confirmation of 3 deaths. It was about the 4th girl, the one who wasn't found, the one who might still be out there. The media ran wild with it. Some outlets speculated she'd been kidnapped separately. Others claimed she'd planned an escape all along. Anonymous callers flooded the tip line with false leads. Sightings in Florida, stories from foster homes, even blurry photos that looked nothing like her. But the police had no answers. There are no fingerprints left in the van. No surveillance footage from 2003. No one remembered seeing the girls after the competition that night. The van had clearly been driven off-road, hidden deliberately, and burned. Whoever did it wanted them gone, and had almost succeeded. At the Montgomery PD cold case office, Detective Carla Edmonds reopened every inch of the original file. She was 13 when the girls vanished, and remembered the posters on telephone poles and the whispers in her school's hallways. Now in her 40s, she was determined not to let this moment fade like it had before. She sat with Raymond Mendez, the cameraman who'd found the van, reviewing his footage again and again. Raymond pointed out the strange scorch pattern along the back of the van, where the fire hadn't spread as cleanly. It looked almost controlled. He also noted the placement of the dresses. They weren't thrown. They were laid down. They weren't trying to hide the bodies, Raymond said. They were memorializing them. Carla nodded slowly. We're trying to convince us they were all there. Raymond swallowed. You think she escaped? I think, Carla said, someone didn't want her found. She began digging into names connected to the church in 2003. Staff rosters, Sunday school rolls, anyone who'd been on that choir trip or had access to the van. That's when she saw it, buried in a scanned memo from that spring. A man named Deacon Frederick Law had traveled with the choir for 2 prior competitions, but he wasn't listed for the 2003 trip. No reason given. Just a note, no longer active in youth ministry as of March. Carla pulled his personnel file. There was no exit interview, no complaint record, no contact address. Just a red-inked note across the last page. Stepped down voluntarily. She traced his driver's license, but it had expired. No forwarding address. When she checked national databases, she found nothing current. The man had disappeared just weeks before the girls had. Gloria Brooks had spent nearly 2 decades living with silence. But now, Reporters camped on her front lawn. People she didn't know knocked on her door asking for interviews. And strangers mailed her sympathy cards like it was fresh again. She didn't want attention. She wanted truth. She visited the crime scene every day for a week. Brought folding chairs. Sat with her thermos of sweet tea and watched the investigators work. One day, she brought a lawn sign that said simply, "Where is Tamika?" On the sixth day, a teenager approached her. He looked about 17, nervous, holding a backpack. "Miss Gloria?" he asked. She nodded. I think I found something." He pulled out a battered composition notebook, water-stained and taped along the spine. It looked decades old. He said he'd found it wedged in the crawl space of the church's old choir practice trailer, now condemned. He and his friends had been filming a ghost hunting video there and stumbled on it under a loose floorboard. Gloria opened the notebook slowly, careful not to smudge the pages. On the first inside cover was a name, T.H. The entries were short, dated sporadically. They talked about fear, about fire, about praying when no one else could hear. One page read, "I think he came back last night. I heard him outside the trees. The others are gone. I think I'm next." Gloria held the book like a fragile child. "This is hers," she whispered. The boy shifted. "You're going to give it to the cops, right?" She nodded. But first she read every page. Detective Edmonds confirmed the notebook was authentic. A forensic lab verified the paper stock matched a batch sold at a Montgomery store in 2003. The handwriting, compared to old-school assignments, was a match for Tamika Harris. In one of the final entries, Tamika described a fire. Not the van fire, but something deeper in the woods. A cabin, or maybe a shed. She wrote of smoke, of someone shouting, of running barefoot. Then nothing. The last line in the notebook read, "I'm not supposed to remember, but I do. Every night." They now had proof that Tamika was alive after the night of the competition. Possibly for days. Maybe longer. But why hadn't she come forward? Where had she gone? And most importantly, was she still alive? The media seized on the new clue. Tamika's face was everywhere again. A grown-up age progression sketch circulated online. Hashtags trended. Podcasts relaunched. A small candlelight vigil was held at New Salem Baptist, though no current staff members attended. The church remained silent. Raymond stood off to the side, watching Gloria hold the notebook under a sea of candlelight. He'd never met Tamika, but he felt tied to her now. He saw something in Gloria's eyes, resolve, not grief. After the crowd left, Gloria leaned over and said, "She didn't want to be found." "Not then." "You think she's out there?" Raymond asked. "I think she waited," Gloria whispered. "I think she watched. And now she's ready." Neither of them saw the comment posted under one of the drone videos that night. It was buried beneath thousands of shares, tucked between speculation and conspiracies. It was simple, unverified. It read, "She's not gone. I know where the fire was." The comment appeared quietly, tucked between the usual chaos beneath Raymond Mendez's viral drone footage. It didn't come from a known account. No photo, no history, just a single post made under the username Meek's Still Here. It read, "She's not gone. I know where the fire was." Sent by Meeks. Detective Carla Edmonds had been up since midnight, replaying footage frame by frame, looking for details others might miss. She hadn't expected much from the comment section, just the usual speculation and internet noise. But that sentence stopped her. There was no exaggeration, no theory. It felt like someone who knew something real. She traced the account. It had been created only a day earlier. The IP was logged from a public library terminal in Jackson, Mississippi. That was over 200 miles away. By morning, Carla was in her car. The Southwood Library branch was modest, pressed between a check-cashing spot and a dry cleaner. Inside, the air smelled like toner and linoleum. A young staffer hesitated when Carla flashed her badge and asked about the computer terminal. "We don't usually give out that kind of info," he said. "I'm investigating a missing person," she replied. "And I think she left a trail here. I don't want you to get in trouble. But someone may finally be ready to come home." He didn't ask questions after that. He led her to the log. Guest pass number 3472. Used the day before for 36 to 4:52 p.m. on Station 4. The guest name, Meeks. Next came a camera footage. Low resolution, black and white. A woman, early 30s, sat at the computer in a hoodie with a beanie pulled down low. Her posture was cautious. She typed slowly, pausing between movements, then walked out without looking back. There was no clear shot of her face. But Carla's gut told her it was Tamika Harris. She left Jackson with the footage in hand, but no idea where the woman had gone next. Gloria Brooks was hanging wet laundry in her yard when the call came. She let it ring twice, then answered with her shoulder pressed to the phone. "Mrs. Brooks?" She stopped moving. The voice on the line was soft, worn down, like it hadn't spoken freely in years. "Yes," Gloria whispered. "It's me. It's Tamika." The name hit her like a wave. Her knees almost gave out. She sat down on the porch step without a word. "I saw the bus on the news," Tamika said. "I saw the photo. And I saw you. I never stopped," Gloria said. Her voice cracked. "We looked. We prayed. Baby, we never stopped. I didn't think you were still out there," Tamika said. "He told me everyone forgot. That I didn't matter. That was my fault. It wasn't your fault. Not one bit. Don't you believe that? I know that now. But I didn't before. Where are you?" "I'm safe. For now. But I can't come home yet. I'm not ready. I needed you to know I'm alive. And I remember. I remember everything. I love you," Gloria said. "I love you too." Then the call ended. Gloria sat still for a long time, the wind blowing the damp laundry behind her like soft flags. Detective Edmonds returned to Montgomery and called Raymond. "She's alive," Carla said. She called Gloria. She used the name Meeks and Jackson. "It all matches." Raymond blinked. "Then she's watching." "She's waiting," Carla said. "To see what we'll do." Raymond nodded slowly. "Then let's show her we're still looking." They started with the church property. New Salem Baptist had been closed for nearly a decade. But out behind the main building sat a forgotten trailer, once used as the youth choir practice room. No one had touched it since 2003. Carla brought gloves. Raymond brought a crowbar and his camera. Inside, mildew clung to the walls. Sheet music was scattered across the floor. A corkboard held curling photographs. A cracked mirror hung beside a storage closet filled with broken chairs. Raymond noticed something odd, a soft spot in the back corner of the room. The wood creaked. He knelt down and pulled a loose plank. Beneath, it was a rusted hatch. He pried it open. Inside was a crawl space no taller than a milk crate. He reached in carefully, brushing aside dust, and pulled out two things. First, a denim jacket, child-sized, torn at the sleeve. On the inside collar, stitched in faded thread, was the name, Tamika. Second, a plastic-wrapped envelope, weathered but intact. Inside was a black and white photo. For girls, arms around each other, in their navy and white robes. All smiling. On the back, someone had written in pen, "One of us got away. Don't stop looking. Sign Meeks." Raymond stared at it, his chest tightening. "She left this," he whispered. "She wanted us to find it," Carla replied. "She never gave up." That night, Raymond posted the photo to his feed. No headlines. No logos. Just the image. Captioned, "One of them made it. We just didn't know where to look." It exploded online. And a few hours later, buried among the thousands of shares and comments, one stood out. It said, "I remember everything. I'm not ready to come home, but I will be. Sent by Meeks." And just below that, another. "Tell Gloria I still remember her peach cobbler. I still dream about it. Tell her I didn't forget." Gloria saw it. Carla saw it. And somewhere, far from Alabama, Tamika Harris watched the world try again for her. The moment the second message appeared, "I remember everything. I'm not ready to come home, but I will be. Sent by Meeks." Detective Carla Edmonds locked herself in her office and called IT. "We have movement," she told them. "This isn't a hoax. She's alive. She's reaching." Raymond's photo had gone viral in less than 24 hours. News outlets ran with headlines like "Survivor from 2003 choir disappearance speaks out anonymously," and "Burn bus discovery triggers new lead in cold case." But while the media spun their angles, Carla stayed focused on one thing: finding the man who took her. Because Tamika hadn't just survived. She had been silenced. And someone made sure of that. She reviewed every name linked to New Salem Baptist's youth program back in 2003. Most were long gone. Some had died. A few still lived locally. But one name stood out again and again: Frederick Law. He wasn't the official youth pastor. He wasn't even on payroll. But according to church sign-in logs and several photos, he'd volunteered regularly, helped clean buses, attended practices, organized overnight events. In March of 2003, just weeks before the girls vanished, he suddenly disappeared from the sign-in logs. No HR file. No resignation letter. He simply stopped showing up. Carla dug deeper. No criminal record. No tax filings. Nothing under that name after 2004. Until she ran a facial recognition scan on an old church event photo and compared it to driver's license archives. A match popped up under a different name. Gregory Fulton died in a cabin fire in 2009 in southern Mississippi. Body was burned beyond recognition. Only ID was a wallet found at the scene. But Carla didn't buy it. She sent a request to Mississippi State Police for any unsolved cases tied to Fulton's name. 2 came back. Both involved missing girls in rural areas. Both involved reports of an older man driving a white van. Raymond sat in stunned silence as she told him. He faked his death, Carla said. That fire in '09 might have been planted. So, you think he's still out there? Raymond asked. I think he moved, changed names again. And I think Tamika ran because he's still looking. Gloria Brooks didn't sleep much that week. Every time her phone buzzed, her chest tightened. She kept checking Raymond's page, waiting for another message. She kept rereading the last one. Tell Gloria I still remember her peach cobbler. She didn't know if it hurt more or healed something deep. Tamika had been part of their lives. A soft-spoken, thoughtful girl. Gloria remembered her sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, drawing pictures in Imani's sketchpad, humming to herself. And now, she might be the only one left. One night, Gloria stood in the doorway of Imani's room and whispered, She's trying to find her way back, baby. Help her, please. She didn't cry. She'd done enough of that in the first 5 years. Now, she just waited. Raymond, meanwhile, was back in the woods. He couldn't explain it. He just felt drawn. The burned bus had been towed for investigation, but the clearing remained. The trees, the air, the silence. He retraced his steps, hoping to feel what Tamika might have felt. As he reached the far edge of the clearing, he noticed something odd, an unnatural patch in the soil, like someone had turned it over years ago and nature had only half reclaimed it. He knelt and brushed the dirt aside. Half buried was a rusted lunchbox, the old kind with a plastic handle and peeling paint. He pried it open slowly. Inside were fragments, a broken wristwatch, a pink hair tie, a tiny New Testament pocket Bible, a torn corner of a photo, just enough to show part of a choir robe and the side of a young girl's face. And underneath, wrapped in plastic, a small, spiral-bound notebook. Raymond's breath caught in his throat as he opened it. The handwriting was uneven, some pages soaked and unreadable, but others were clear. I think I stayed too long. He's not gone. I heard him coughing again. I prayed last night. I don't know who's listening. Maybe Imani. Maybe God. But I prayed. I don't want to be forgotten. And finally, if someone finds this, tell Gloria I didn't mean to disappear. I just didn't know how to come back. Raymond closed the notebook with shaking hands. She had left this here for someone. For anyone. And he was the one who found it. Carla didn't waste time. She had the items tested, logged, and verified. Everything pointed to one truth. Tamika had been living nearby for months, maybe years, after the disappearance. She had buried pieces of her life in that clearing. But the question remained, where was she now? Then the tip came in. A nurse working at a small women's shelter in Baton Rouge called Montgomery PD after recognizing Tamika's photo on a news segment. She said a woman had stayed with them in 2018 for 3 weeks, going by the name Kiki. Quiet, kind, but always nervous. One day, she just vanished, left behind a sketchbook. Carla got it shipped overnight. Inside were drawings, trees, faces, scenes of fire. But on the very last page was a sketch of 4 girls standing side by side, robes flowing, hands linked. Underneath, in soft pencil, it read, "We sang until the woods couldn't hold us anymore." Signed, Meeks. That night, Gloria sat on her porch, the air thick with heat and memory. Raymond pulled up in his car and handed her a copy of the drawing. She stared at it, her eyes welling. "She's coming home," she whispered. Raymond didn't say anything. He just sat beside her, and they waited. It happened on a Wednesday. At 7:03 a.m., a woman walked into the front lobby of the Montgomery County Police Department, wearing a faded denim jacket and carrying a plastic folder. Her hair was tucked into a loose cap. Her eyes were down. She didn't speak at first, just waited, arms crossed tight against her chest. When the officer at the desk finally looked up and asked, "Can I help you?" she said 4 words. "My name is Tamika Harris." Everything after that moved fast. Detective Carla Edmonds got the call 10 minutes later. She dropped her coffee on the floor and sped across town, her heart pounding. When she walked in the small interview room, she found a woman sitting at the table, back straight, hands folded, early 30s, faint scars on her left wrist, cheekbones more defined, but the eyes were unmistakable. "Tamika," Carla said softly. Tamika stood up slowly. "I didn't know if you'd believe me." "I've been waiting for you," Carla said. Tamika smiled just barely. "I'm ready to talk." The interview lasted nearly 6 hours. Tamika spoke with a quiet steadiness, like someone who'd rehearsed the words for years. She told them everything. That night in 2003, after the choir competition, the church van was supposed to take a shortcut, an old road near the tree line. Frederick Law, the church volunteer, offered to guide the way in his own vehicle. Said he knew the route better than Brother Curtis. What happened next never made it to the official records. Law's vehicle suddenly blocked the road. He forced him to stop. He had a weapon. He threatened the driver. What followed was chaos. Tamika remembered screams. She remembered the smell of gasoline. She remembered fire. 3 of the girls never made it out of the van. She didn't remember how she got pulled from it, but she woke up inside a shack miles away, with Law pacing the floor, murmuring prayers and humming gospel tunes. He told her she was special, that God had saved her, that she needed to forget who she was and where she came from. She stayed there for 2 months. Then one night, she escaped while he was asleep. She ran until her legs gave out. She found a road. A woman picked her up and drove her to a gas station. When the clerk asked her name, she said nothing, just stared at the wall. She didn't trust anyone. She thought he'd find her again. For the next few years, she drifted between group homes, shelters, and bus stations, using fake names. She never stayed anywhere long. She didn't feel like she belonged. And every time she tried to speak, her voice froze. She told herself the truth wouldn't matter, that people had moved on. But when she saw the bus on the news, everything changed. "I saw my robe again," she told Carla, "and I knew I had to come back." Carla sat silent for a long time before responding. "You're safe now," she said. "I don't feel safe," Tamika whispered. "But I want to." They called Gloria that same afternoon. She arrived at the station with her hands pressed together so tightly they shook. When she entered the room, Tamika stood slowly. Neither of them said anything at first. Then Gloria walked over and wrapped her arms around her, and Tamika collapsed into her. No press, no cameras, just the kind of silence that lets a heart finally exhale. Gloria whispered, "You came back," and Tamika said, "I didn't know if you'd still want me." "I never stopped wanting you," Gloria said. "Never." The next few weeks were a blur. News stations picked up the story, but Montgomery PD refused to hold a press conference. They didn't need spectacle. They needed space. Raymond Mendez declined every interview request. Instead, he filmed a quiet tribute. Drone footage of the woods, the church, the clearing where the bus was found. Overlaid with a piano version of his "Eye is on the Sparrow," he ended the video with a single line. 3 voices lost. 1 returned. And still they sing. The video reached over 3 million views. But Tamika didn't watch it. She spent her time in Gloria's guest room. The walls were still decorated with Amani's choir awards and photos. She sat under those pictures every night, writing in a journal. Some entries were full of guilt. Others were just lists, things she remembered, things she still feared, things she hoped for. One night, she brought the journal to Gloria. On the last page was a drawing of 4 girls standing under a tree. Beneath it, she'd written, "I wasn't supposed to be the one who came back, but I did. and I will carry them with me. Gloria didn't speak. She just reached over and held Tamika's hand. A month later, a candlelight vigil was held outside New Salem Baptist. The building had long since been condemned, but the community returned anyway. They brought flowers, photographs, Bibles. A pastor from another church read the names. Tamika stood in the back. No one asked her to speak, but near the end, she stepped forward. The crowd parted. She walked slowly to the microphone. Her voice was soft. Steady. I want to say their names, she said. Not just because we lost them, but because they mattered. Imani, Alicia, Dee, they were my sisters, and they sang with me, even when no one else heard us. She paused, eyes glistening. I survived, but only because of them. I want to live in a way that makes their voices echo. The crowd stood silent. Then Gloria started clapping, and the rest followed. Months later, Tamika began volunteering at a center for missing youth in Birmingham. She didn't tell them her story at first. She just showed up, helped organize the shelves, and passed out snacks during group sessions. One day, a girl asked if Tamika had ever been scared for a long time. Tamika smiled. Yes, she said, but I'm not scared now. And in that small, borrowed room, someone else exhaled too. Because Tamika didn't just come back. She built something new. And in doing so, she made sure the girls who vanished in 2003 would never, ever be forgotten.